So this is all the committee now? We're down to, we got one more, right? Alice, two more?
Do we have quorum today, Alice? Okay.
Yes, you have quorum now because there's currently 6 members on the committee, and so 4 is quorum.
Wonderful. To begin the meeting, I would like to do a land acknowledgement. We'd like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that the town of Shelburne resides within the traditional territory and ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, including the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, Chippewa, and the people of the Three Fires Confederacy. These traditional territories in which we live, work, play, and learn are steeped in rich Indigenous history and traditions. And it is with this statement that we declare to honor and respect the past and present connection of Indigenous peoples with the land, its waterways, and resources. We encourage residents to review the call to action information by visiting the Dufferin County Cultural Resource Circle at dccrc.ca for more information. And with that, I'd like to move to the second item on the agenda, which is the disclosure of pecuniary interest. Does anyone have any financial stake in any of the items presented on the agenda today? That would be, I'll take that as a no. All right, and then moving on to the third item, I would like to, which is adoption of the agenda. With the recommendation that we adopt the agenda as presented. Does anyone have, are there any concerns to that? And if not, do I have a mover and a seconder? Len moving and Walter seconding. I would like to, can I get a vote? Is everyone in favor of that? Yes. All right, and that is unanimous. Moving on to the fourth item, which is adoption of the minutes with the recommendation that it is that we adopt the minutes as presented from our last meeting, which was on July 20th. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Shane moving and one more person, Walter, thank you. And now for a vote, please, right, again, I believe this is unanimous. All right, and then now moving on to the fifth item on the agenda, which is general information. The first item being the resignation of Karen Lang and Nicholas Knight. So throughout the summer, both Karen and Nicholas have resigned, either citing time commitments or that they are moving and will no longer be a resident of Shelburne. I believe there are 2 other members, but Alice and Denise can speak more to that.
May I add one thing to that, Ryan?
Mm-hmm.
So Shaquille Bohi, who's also on the committee, is a student, and he is currently wanting to stay on the committee, indicated he was unable to attend tonight. But is reevaluating his time commitments to ensure that he can fulfill the requirements of the committee. So I've asked for a follow-up email from him, but haven't yet heard back from him. So, and Stella indicated she would be here tonight, so hopefully she's just running a bit late.
So Alice, those are 2 other members of the committee currently?
That is correct, Walter, yes.
Are we advertising for additional members at this point?
We haven't advertised yet because the committee hadn't received the resignations of the 2 members. The one just came in this week, so we haven't even had the opportunity to yet.
Does anyone have any more questions or comments regarding the resignations? No. Or Shane?
I guess I'd just like to express, my appreciation for their efforts, whether it was this small duration that they stayed for this committee or it was from previous serving, but appreciate their efforts over the years of service that they provided.
Thank you for that, Shane. With that, I think we can move to the second item under general information, which is the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, also known as Orange Shirt Day, which has taken place on September 30th. Alice or Denise, would one of you like to walk through that?
Sure, I can, Ryan. So the brochure for the event was concluded in your agenda package, I believe, in the past as well. Ryan, as the chair of the committee, will be providing opening remarks at the day of that evening. Myself and Jamie Caskey will be the staff members on site to help with the logistics. We are replicating the same process and program we had last year, which was very successful. It's just the logistics right now of the actual timing of the blessing of the crosswalk, because with it being at James, it's awkward in terms of the routing. So we'll work that out between now and the date. It might be something we go the exact opposite way on the walk. We are working with the Cultural Resource Center in Orangeville, so they are part and parcel of the process. And really that's about it. The only thing that we would like, if you're willing, is a couple ambassadors just to be on site by about 6:30 to welcome anybody who shows up. We will have a board up with the program on it, as opposed to handing out brochures and creating any recycle material. And that really is the extent of it. Town Hall will be lit up in orange in advance. We won't be doing it as part of the ceremony. But the formal ceremony starts at just before 7 o'clock. And we expect, like last year, we should be done around 8:15, 8:20.
So Denise, the ambassadors are to be where? At Jack
Oh,
Downing?
yes, sorry, at Jack Downing Park, Walter. Yeah, even 20 to, yeah, I would say 6:30, 20 to 7, because people start arriving and then they may have some questions. It's just nice to welcome them and sort of have an engagement.
Yeah, I don't mind being there.
Okay, thank you.
And I certainly can be there by that time as
Okay,
well.
fantastic.
Yeah, I'll be around.
Wonderful. And as already discussed, I'll be there as well. And if we're really desperate for help, I can probably enlist my partner if absolutely needed to help.
Well, thanks. Yeah, we should, but between Shane, Walter, and Len, myself, Jamie, and you as chair, I think we're great. We'll be setting up. Jamie and I will set up the tables and anything else that's part and parcel of the ceremonial support stuff. It's not going to be difficult either. So.
Okay, and the dedication of the crosswalk is going to be at Jack Downing, even though the crosswalk is at Jane. Are we still working at that logistics?
No, the dedication of the crosswalk will be at James. It's just
James, okay.
right before. What we did is the walk started at Jack Downing and went north on William. And then the crosswalk was right there and everybody proceeded. So now we would have to, if we had the crosswalk blessing, we'd have to walk to James, come back, and then start north on William. So what we're thinking of doing is having everybody proceed across Main to James and literally reverse the walking route so that the crosswalk blessing is a component of the walk.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And do we need any technical support at James Street?
We're going to take our portable microphone with us.
Okay. And there's hydro there or no?
No, it's not. You don't need hydro.
Battery operated? Okay.
Battery operated.
Are there any other comments, questions, or concerns regarding Orange Shirt Day?
Ask the elders, make sure it doesn't rain that night.
Yeah, we can ask her. Actually, she's technically not an elder, the person who's representing the Cultural Resource Center. But I can ask Deborah that anyways.
I guess moving on to item 5.3, an update for the proposed budget request to council. Alice, would you be able to walk through that?
Yes, between Denise and I, we can go through that. What we're looking for from the committee is a recommendation to council as to what the committee feels they would use in a budget for 2024. We did attach the current 2023 budget to the agenda for your just a reminder of what you've currently had and what's been spent to date this year, just to kind of guide you for making a recommendation to council for next year's budget. I can share that screen if you like.
So are we we're getting back together with the Black Association Suffering Committee, right? For Black History Month again this coming year?
Sorry, what do you mean? Walt, do you mean physically having them come to a meeting, or the partnership that we discussed, even though I was missed the last meeting at that meeting?
The partnership, like last year, we
Yeah.
utilized some money to set up Black History Month. We're doing that again this year, I'm assuming.
I mean, if you'd like, I can address number,
I guess
number 7 is,
I'm looking at attachment 3, and I'm looking at the budget, I guess is what I'm looking at. And we utilized
2,500. Yeah.
last year, and I'm assuming we're gonna probably need some money again this year,
Yeah, and I had,
which
because I missed the last meeting, I would have asked for a formal amount to be included, because this is the DEI asking Alethea Stevenson O'Hara's organization to partner with us, as opposed to us even considering trying to offer an event on our own. So last year it was $2,500. I did ask her to confirm today. I unfortunately haven't heard, but I'll follow up with her again. That, I guess in the absence of knowing, I would suggest that the committee approve that within the DEI's budget, that $2,500 be allocated for Black History Month 2024. And that we could work through the logistics of what that would be. And additionally, because it is a DEI event and asking them to partner with us, there's no formal need to have Grace Tippling Hall fees or allocation waived or assigned, because it's the town's event. So you have that, and it's just, I guess council had asked, 3 of you were here, that there be more prescriptive or an outline of what those functions within a budget are, to avoid a budget not being underspent or not spent at all at year end, and then we're just rebudgeting for it. So, if we start tracking that a committee isn't exhausting or fully utilizing, in this case, say the $15,000, it doesn't make a lot of strategic sense to continue to budget $15,000. And that's sort of by the default. So right now I can tell you in the draft, we would carry forward $15,000 and rebudget it, but certainly there's no point doing that if that's not what you anticipate utilizing, and for what functions.
And that was actually going to be my next question. I'm sorry, because never being on the DEI in previous, 15,000 was put in there for when it went to council, that they were going to spend it on specific items and specific things, and for some reason, I guess the question I'm going to have is, as a committee, we have to come up with some logic as to having that 15,000 in there to council, and what are we spending it on?
I think the original $15,000 was the budget established when it was the anti-racism task force. And there were a number of recommendations that flowed out of that. And I think as well, some of the impacts in not expending the budget were due to COVID. And last year, sort of getting launched on a couple of new initiatives, namely Truth and Reconciliation and Orange Shirt Day combination ceremony, as well as creating an alliance for Black History Month. So that doesn't preclude the fact that you may have initiatives as we look through an updated mandate on what would flow. It may not happen this year, but I guess what you determine this year would be the work plan for the next 3 years may reinforce that you need that budget or not. So, I mean, if it's easier, what we could do is continue to have the $15,000 and have you think about and come up with a plan to utilize that for the rest of the year, for 2024. And obviously, if it's not, then we can advise the town, us, that it's going to be underspent and potentially then it can be realigned for other or the corporate needs.
That's fine. I have no problem with that.
Okay.
Can we at some point remind me what was done from the recommendations that came and what wasn't done out of those recommendations? Maybe send it to all the committee members so that we have it. So that'll be part of maybe what we can look at budget wise and planning wise as to what we need to continue to do.
Yeah, so we can certainly do an update, and the former chair was tracking a lot of that with the task force's recommendations. However, there's certainly things that have emerged since then in terms of where you want to go. And that's why it's critical that this committee determine what their mandate is and what your work plan is, as opposed to not exclusively relying on those past, I guess, project issues, because many of them have been achieved. So we'll certainly, we can resend what the task force recommended and the status of where we were on all of those initiatives.
Yeah, that's part of it. And the other part is because we've now taken in the disability side as well.
Accessibility.
Yeah,
Yep, the accessibility.
accessibility, sorry. I'm using the wrong word there. The accessibility side of it, there's probably other things out there that we need to look at as part of the committee as well. Because the accessibility committee, there were a lot of things in the community that could have been done and were not able to be done due to the size of the committee.
Exactly. So that's why it's really important that as a committee, you talk about your mandate to incorporate and ensure a high priority for the accessibility element of this committee with the merger into the committee, into the DEI. And that may actually have budgetary implications in terms of initiatives or projects that you want to see undertaken, whether through the committee or corporately. And this may require that, you know, a staff member or somebody neutral, third party, facilitates a discussion so that you may be given that support to have that dialogue, almost like a little mini planning session outside of a DEI meeting. So we can talk about that. Because there's a lot on the DEI, I guess, docket that's probably new. I mean, for those of us that attended the special educational session yesterday, I think that alone showed what the breadth of issues that need to be addressed within a community are. And Ryan can certainly speak to that as he attended.
Yeah, just from attending yesterday and just listening to some of the dialogue, there definitely seems to be, I think, a lot of what we would like to accomplish as a committee in terms of DEI is resonating generally with a lot of staff and community members. But I think there's still further education needed kind of on some of the, I guess, more nuanced conversations within DEI. I think that's as much as I can say right now, at least. That was the general sense I got. Certain conversations, particularly around that individuals may have bias, didn't seem to resonate particularly well with everyone in attendance. And then one or two other related topics. But Denise, would you say there are any other topics that stood out to you? Or Alice?
I think what was really important was the awareness is hopefully increasing on the horrors of the residential school system and what the Indigenous communities of Canada, let alone Ontario, have endured. And that awareness is manifesting itself in, I guess, thoughtful conversations in terms of respect or retrospective type of understanding. And I think as a community, Shelburne has exhibited leadership in terms of that path. But I think, again, not to keep saying this, but I think it's really important that you as a committee have some kind of engagement with your team and come up with some of the key strategies and or mandate items that you would like to see comprised of what your work plan will be for this term on a year-by-year basis with a checklist. And I mean, those that couldn't attend yesterday on council, we'll be sending you the video once we work out the challenges with the audio and the video linking or not syncing properly, and the PowerPoint presentation from Romina Morris, who presented. So.
Lynn?
Yeah, just a quick question more to remind us. DCCBA did receive a grant from the town, is that correct?
No,
They did not.
They did not apply for a grant in 2024, 2023.
Oh, okay, fine.
Okay.
So do you need a recommendation for us to, on the budget at this point?
So maybe what you could just outline is that further review of the 2024 budget needs will be assessed. At this time, it is requested that the town continue to include the $15,000 as the budget for the DEI. And should any changes to that be made, they can be adjusted in 2024.
Sounds like a good motion. I'll move it.
Okay.
And then do we have one person to second that? Right, Shane, wonderful. Can we, let's do a vote on that? Everyone in favor? All right. And then the next item, which we've kind of already begun to talk about, was Black History Month 2024. So the last meeting we discussed partnering with the Alethea Association. Is there any, Alice or Denise, is there anything else that is kind of come out with that? I see there's a request for volunteers now.
I'll go first, Ryan. So it's important, so just so I can follow up with Alethea, if the committee would support providing a motion that you will allocate $2,500 in the budget to support a DEI event in partnership with the Dufferin County Canadian Black Association. I can then confirm that with Alethea. And if it is more of a an alliance, because she had also indicated that there would be other partners such as the Museum of Dufferin and possibly the county, that it gives some flexibility to come back in terms of the protocol and how this event would actually be constructed. We do know it'll be at Grace Tippling Hall again, and it's just determining what the scope of that event is. It could be an evening or an afternoon. And then obviously as a town DEI event, there's no need to worry about Grace Tippling Hall being utilized. We will just assign it as a rental through the town.
Okay. So the recommendation then is to move forward with the proposed budget item.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you can just approve $2,500, if that's less or too much, she can clarify that. But I would think that because it was $2,500 last year, and the costs of everything, as we all know, have gone up with inflation, that probably would be the minimum to help us run the magnitude of such a great event, similar to what was done last year.
So rather than putting it at $2,500, could I make a recommendation that we move it to up to a maximum of $3,000?
I'm sure she would be thrilled.
I'm not saying spend all of it up
Yeah.
to $3,000. I'm just saying up to a maximum of $3,000 for
Yeah.
Black History Month. If that is acceptable.
Yep.
That should cover if there's an increase or anything in the meantime.
Mhm.
And I'll move it.
Wonderful. Is there someone to second that? Len, wonderful. And then let's move to voting for that. Everyone in favor? Right, that would be 4 of us.
So Brian, you had asked about the volunteer bit.
Yeah.
So what we'd like to make sure that we coordinate this year is a very active role for the DEI team as committee members on site that night. So whether it's ambassador roles, whether it's providing introductions to those who that may be speaking or providing insight, because that's what the budget that the DEI has committed has supported. We just want to make sure that last year was a fantastic event and they did most of the heavy lifting, that the DEI committee plays a more visible and active role in the 2024 event. So it's just a heads up that once that night is known, and at this point we're not known, it'll probably be a weekend and it'll probably be a Saturday or an afternoon. And it's usually at the end of the month, the last weekend based on last year, but we'll certainly get all those details to you, hopefully before the end of 2023.
Lynn?
I know if I can speak to this. Literally, because I moved all the equipment, I did a lot of heavy lifting. But other than that,
Okay, so yeah, Len was there in like full force last year, but under another banner.
So it's at the end of September, the month,
No, Black History Month is in February.
February, end of February. What am I thinking? Okay. It should be, I can volunteer at this point. It shouldn't be an issue. Hopefully I'm still around at February, but.
I have no concerns either. I mean, willing to help out however is needed. And then hopefully we have more members at that point to help out as well.
And I can certainly also attend, and I can make my kids help however they need to be.
And then does anyone have any other questions or comments regarding Black History Month? No. Moving on to item 5.5, accessibility within the downtown core. Is there a new update on this? Does anyone know, or is this just was this carried over from the previous? Okay. So I don't believe there's any new items. I think it was covered in the last meeting. There was just kind of, I think, a request for more information, if I recall, from Karen. And I think we covered that in the last meeting, but if anyone thinks any further discussion needs to be had. No. All right, so I think we can cross that one off. Number 5.6, which is the sub-working group update. So I'll first talk to the Construction Battalion Memorial. That I believe was already that I believe was already addressed. I believe from what I can see through my emails, the memorial was moved, and that seems to that resonated well with at least Alicia and at the time Nicholas and Karen. So that is no longer that's no longer an item or necessary at this point. And yes, Denise.
So just to clarify, it hasn't been moved yet.
No.
It will be moved.
Oh, it will. Okay.
So what's happened is that the placement of the memorial within the gated area of the community gardens limits the number or the access by the general public. So it had already been determined by staff that probably that placement needed to be reconsidered. So it'll be, I think the plan is on the 25th of September to look at a place outside of the garden. And then certainly the comments from the committee and I guess others that saw the wildflowers as weeds. We'll certainly look at a different plant material that's probably more ornamental to make it still low maintenance, but a little bit more, I guess, unnaturalized.
Wonderful. Thank you for that update, Shane.
So same as I had put forward in the last meeting, whatever the cost is for the naturalization, that the plants that go around it, I on my own would choose to fund that aspect. So whatever the town is saying the dollar value is, if that can be given to me, and I will donate that to the cause.
Thanks, Shane.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so just to clarify, most of the planting won't happen to the spring. Because
Understand.
this time of year is not really, and what we want to plant is something more with a little bit of color, but is also low maintenance and is attractive.
Yeah, whatever the cost may be, if you're budgeting, whatever, just tell me the figure and I'll drop it off.
Okay.
Plant roses. You don't have to look after them.
As beautiful as they are, we have actually a guideline that we don't plant roses, not only because they have thorns, but because if dogs touch them and we don't plant roses for that reason. Especially if little children happen to go by them and they prick themselves.
I think because in the last meeting, there was quite a bit of conversation around what type of plant to plant. I think it's probably just easier to let town maintenance and landscaping determine what's best to go in there, probably. I don't think, from what I can recall, Karen shared by email that she did connect with the
Legion.
The Legion, thank you. I was going to say the Veteran Association, but I knew that wasn't right. And they did say that planting poppies would be inappropriate, which was, I believe, Karen's original recommendation or request. So I think any plant would be appropriate, and then whatever the budget is. Thank you, Shane, for your generosity.
I think poppies are illegal to plant. I don't think we're allowed to plant them because of the type of product that comes from them.
No, we it's both. It would be considered, I think, for lack of a better word, culturally insensitive to plant a poppy, and it's also illegal through, like, the government of Canada does not allow you to plant them because you can derive opium from them.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, it's incredibly regulated. Just moving on to the other item, the DEI committee mandate. We were I had emailed Len and Shane to kind of figure out times, which we're still working on. The other item is that if we're going to be recruiting new members, if the timeline works, it may make sense to kind of delay that until we have new members, see if anyone wants to be a part of active kind of conversation, especially if we're going to be determining kind of like what we'll need budget for. But if we kind of need to set that budget sooner rather than later, and we can't wait for new members, then Shane, Len, and I could probably move forward. Denise, do you have any insight as to what the timeline would be to recruit new members?
So we're assuming, because usually the committee discuss that they want the members replaced. So we're assuming that that is the direction you'd like to go in. We could post something as early as next week, and then we would just outline the process. Then it gets closed. The applications are then reviewed by, I guess, usually it's the nomination sub working group of council that reviews those, and then in turn they do interviews and those people are appointed. But I can't remember if the terms of reference addresses committee vacancies. I think it's just the resignations that the chair will work with. I mean, not the resignations. When somebody does not meet the minimum requirements for attendance. So this is probably more of an Alice question than me. Sorry.
I was just trying to review that quickly because I don't have it all memorized. But council can also choose to appoint someone. So if you know of someone that is interested and would be a good recommendation, if you could reach out to us as well, we can take that directly to council that way.
Right. Yeah. Because other committees have done that where people have just know that somebody's interested and then that the committee makes the recommendation.
If we don't have a recommendation, what's the normal time frame to recruit new members?
A month.
A month, and then would that then give us enough time to create a mandate in time for when you would need a budget submitted?
I think with
your budget's been dealt with in the previous motion, so there's no right now connection between your mandate and your budget.
Okay.
In terms of getting that budget done, so you can amend it you can work within that budget easily, or if it's critical, then you could ask for a budget amendment, and then we'd have to determine how that's funded.
Oh, okay, I misunderstood earlier. So you don't necessarily, we just need to kind of have a plan to kind of begin spending the allocated budget. Okay, thank you. Sorry, sorry, I misunderstood. I thought you need like a itemized list almost. All right, so I think then it would probably, like, I personally would prefer to wait until we see if we're going to be getting new members to begin setting priorities, just to give everyone the chance to kind of shape what we'll be doing for the year. With that being said, if we find ourselves in a similar situation, I think then we should probably plan to move forward. And we can, I suppose we can wait for an update kind of at the next meeting in October to see if we'll have new members by then, or if there's any potential interest, and then we can determine next step from there if we need support from the town in any way to host a planning meeting.
I should clarify, it might take a month and a half, because you have to have the formal recommendations through the formal nomination process brought back to council at a formal council meeting. So, I mean, it's already the next meeting is on Monday. We have a special budget meeting on the 2nd of October and 2 meetings in October. So it might be the meeting in November that, if we have to rely on the formal process, that new committee members would be recommended.
Thank you. I think it would just make sense to see where we're at in terms of, I guess, how many more people will be on the committee and how engaged they'll be. So I think we can wait until we determine that, and then I think from there we can plan to maybe host some type of a planning session. Does anyone have any concerns with that in terms of next steps?
Ryan, is there any issue with you starting the process of working on the mandate, at least getting some ideas put together as a committee and then presenting them to the committee as a whole to work with?
I have no concerns with moving forward on it. I was just hoping to kind of receive, I guess, maybe more feedback, or kind of get more of an interest in terms of what the committee members were interested in pursuing. I'm happy to move forward with that, like, in the meantime.
It's I guess my thoughts, just personally, is one of the reasons I'm on the committee is the accessibility side of the issue. Having worked with that committee for years and years, and there's a lot in there that somehow we have to work into our mandate as well. So I guess we had a mandate as a committee at one point in time, and maybe sending that out to you will assist putting together some thoughts on the mandate for the DEI.
That would be helpful, yes.
So Brian, staff will send you what the accessibility committee's mandate in the past was. I'll also suggest to my colleague, and this will be helpful probably, is we're certainly able to collate all of the mandates of various DEI committees across the province, for example, and accessibility committees. Just their structure and that information might be helpful to review, as opposed to struggling to create it from scratch.
Wonderful. I can take a in advance of the next meeting then. Insofar as no one has any concerns, I can take a kind of a first draft, a kind of at least rephrasing some of the language in the mandate, and then we can at least go from there, just so that some progress is made. And then in terms of kind of setting, I guess, more tactical kind of action items for the upcoming year, we can then see what we can at least get a general sense of what our main priorities will be, and then we can determine actual action items to support that once new members come on.
That sounds like a lot of work for you.
It is what it is until we have more members.
Okay, so we'll send you as much as we can gather in the next
Yeah.
couple of weeks.
That sounds good. Wonderful. And then and then from there, we'll if I need any additional support, I'll reach out to you, Denise and Alice, and then we can determine next steps at kind of our next meeting once we have a better sense of where with everything. Does anyone have any other questions, comments, concerns about either of the sub-working groups? No. Number 5. So number 5, is there any new business or new items that people would like to discuss right now? I'll take these silence as a no. And then the last item is adjourning. Does am I allowed to move an item or to propose an item as a chair? Yeah, yes, I am. Okay. I propose that we adjourn for the evening then.
Call for the vote.
All right, wonderful. And take a vote. All in favor of adjourning for the evening, everyone. All right, wonderful. With that, the meeting is our next meeting then will take place in October. And we've agreed on the 3rd Thursday of every month, I believe. So that would then fall on October 19th. Does anyone have any concerns with that date? No, wonderful. I will see everyone hopefully on September 30th and then at the next meeting.
Brian, can you stay on if you don't mind, Alice?